I personally think, we are using the term digital transformation it's like a misnomer. It's actually the transformation is what we need to talk about. And then digital comes underneath that. Same thing with ESG as well. And ESG is, getting a lot of, noise these days. But my personal opinion is that it's not a noise anymore.
Hi everyone, welcome to the Actionable ESG Talks series brought to you by AKFI, Actionable Knowledge Foundational Institute, the world's first nonprofit industry consortium committed to bridging the gap between ESG, sustainability, and digital transformation. My name is Isabella Wang. I am co-hosting this talk series with Manuel Wexler, the executive director at AKFI. And thanks to this talk series, we get to bring together great minds to discuss the current state and the future state of ESG, sustainability, and digital transformation. And today joining us is the special guest, John Matthew. Hi, John.
Hello.
Hello, John.
How are you?
Doing well.
All right.
Doing
Good
well.
to see you both. Good to see you
Excellent
both.
to see you.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
Thank you for accepting our invitation today.
Sure. Yeah.
And John is passionate about integrating ESG considerations into business practices. Currently, he is a leading transformation effort at Johnson & Johnson. John is an accomplished professional with a strong background in enterprise digital transformation with more than 20 years of experience and expertise in the field. He has been at the forefront of driving strategic initiatives that leverage technology to achieve sustainable and responsible business growth. As a thought leader in digital transformation, John has helped organizations across various industries navigate the rapidly evolving digital transformation landscape and harness emerging technologies to optimize operations, enhance customer experience, and drive innovation. Thank you again, John. Very looking forward to hearing what you have to share today. Starting with our first question, what are your thoughts on the current state of sustainability, ESG in general, and digital transformation trends, and if they're converging in your opinion?
All right. I think once again, I want to thank you for inviting me to this great organizations and as a talk show guest here. Before I go further, I just want to make a quick disclaimer, if you will. I work at Johnson & Johnson, but by no means I'm a spokesperson for Johnson & Johnson. So what I'm going to share is my observations and my experiences, and that's what probably I will share with you some of the best practices that could pave way for a better management of business processes in organizations. So that's what I will probably cover on. So back to your point, Isabella, what I think about ESG and digital transformation, I personally think, we are using the term digital transformation it's like a misnomer. It's actually the transformation is what we need to talk about. And then digital comes underneath that. Same thing with ESG as well. And ESG is, getting a lot of, noise these days. But my personal opinion is that it's not a noise anymore. It is the reality. It is it's the real stuff that people have to work on, and it has a far-reaching implications both inside and outside of the organization. Where we stand in terms of sustainability and ESG adoption in organization is something everyone has to take a look at. Do some kind of introspection where they stand, right from a capital allocation for ESG and what's their long-term plan, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years down the line. how it's going to look like, because when it comes to ESG, it is not just about your 5-year plan. This is going to stay. If we want to make any contribution to our future generations, I think this ESG is one area where people need to really focus on, and that will pave way for actions and business processes that will last for a lifetime, not our lifetime, but for the few generations to come. So this is where the importance of ESG and it, I personally think, just like any transformation, I think we talk about this digital transformation all along. And again, I tend to differ. It's a transformation is what we are looking at it, and we are using technology. When we use technology, then it becomes a digital transformation. But it is not just about technology. A transformation has multiple elements in it. Technology is one piece of it. People, culture is another piece of it. Infrastructure is another piece of it. So if you really look at it, people, process, technology, if you go by this basic, I would say the linchpin, I think any transformation will have their own, again, it's not different from any other transformation. Okay, so this is where we need to invest our time and money and our thought process. But that adoption or the mindset change within organizations is something, as I said, you can reflect in your organization and see where do you stand in terms of this adoption. Because when you look at the people, process, technology, is everybody aware of this digital transformation, the ESG transformation? What is the impact it will have? How do you actually orchestrate this transformation, the so-called ESG transformation within your organization? Is this just it's a fad or a buzzword for now, or is this something that's going to have a far-reaching implications both inside and outside the organization? So these are the kinds of mindset change we need to have in organizations. I have a feeling that we are not there yet. Again, you can straight away look at your allocations, capital allocations, and see where do you stand in an organization when it comes to ESG, how much importance you have in your organization, what is your reporting line when you have digital ESG? Is it just one group working in silo, or it is really an organization that goes all the way up to the CEO, and it cuts across the organization? What kind of use cases you are building? All of these are important when it comes to ESG. And back to your question, Isabella, what do I think in terms of where do you stand in terms of ESG adoption? I think I personally think it's not there, the way it's supposed to be. But and then the second part of your question is, how does it connect with the transformation that is happening? In my opinion, any transformation that is happening is not different from what's happening with ESG. ESG is the transformation, the process, the journey is pretty much the same, but we need to be cognizant of the fact that this particular item has a far-reaching implication than anything that we have done in the past. Especially if you are a company, a publicly traded company, you will be more vulnerable to the lack of adoption to ESG, because imagine 10 years down the line, your pension fund managers, your mutual fund managers are going to pick their allocation based on ESG criteria. Where do you stand? So this cannot be done overnight. So this is where we need to think ahead and make, I would say, rally your organization around this concept. And it's not just a few people's job. It is everybody's job. That's the mindset we need to have in organizations. I don't think we are there yet when it comes to organizations. So that's my initial thoughts about ESG and digital transformation. Let me take a pause here and see if you.
Thank you, John. And actually, before we move forward, we tried at AKFI to change digital transformation to transformation digital. You may see a white paper about this, because yes, we cannot agree more than this is part of a process of transformation, many processes of transformation. And actually, you already touched on the main points. Once you understand it as a transformation process and part of the long-term strategy, as you mentioned, you said it's not a 5-year strategy. And in a previous interview, we found out it's a 30-year strategy. It's the strategy, it's what the executives will leave for the next generations of the executives and for their children and grandchildren and so on. So you pointed clearly to the transformation process, and also you indicated the separation, and this is what we call it, the gap between digital transformation or transformation digital for this talk to transformation ESG and sustainability, which happen in parallel, but as it happens in math, parallel lines seems not to converge. They don't seem to touch each other unless you go in special math. Yeah. But in classic math and in classic enterprises structures, these two activities are parallel. And of course, when you have a transformation process, you have to unite them. You have to put them together. You have to close that gap. But I'm going to take you to even a more challenging space, because this transformation is not only happening inside the enterprise, as we discussed already, but also happens in the supply chain. And upcoming legislation, actually, some of it already enacted in Europe and in California, for instance, in many other countries, are making I call them the brands, responsible for the supply chain, sustainability reporting, ESG reporting, and performance. And there are also penalties against greenwashing and so on. So data takes a center stage in this. And I know you have a lot of experience with the supply chain. How do you see this strategy stretching into the supply chain, and what role the transformation digital has, and what role the ESG has?
Yeah. So again, if I'm not mistaken, I read one statistics a couple of weeks ago that world's top 100 companies are making probably 75 to 80% of greenhouse gases out of all the companies. So if you really look at it, right, I personally think it's not even like a 80-20 rule. It's probably 95-5 rule. 5%, whatever that company number, right? Very small bunch of group, big companies have the largest impact when it comes to greenhouse gases. So what that means is these companies' operations and processes will also be really complex. And if you kind of drill down on it, most probably 80%, this is again another statistics I read in the same article, 80% of the ESG impact is in their supply chain. And if you really look at it, right, if you take a car manufacturing company, for example, they have thousands of suppliers before they actually produce a car. So the question is, how do you ensure that when you manufacture a car, the car that you are using is actually compliant with the ESG requirement? It's really hard. It's really complex process to ensure that everybody in the supply chain is compliant with the ESG requirements, right? So this is where the data plays a crucial role in defining the ESG requirement. So if a company wants to be ESG compliant, the first thing they have to see what exactly is their business processes, who are the stakeholders, who are all contributing to manufacture their product. How do we collect this data? So this is not just an effort. This is where it becomes really complex. It's not an effort within the organization. Supply chain being the largest contributor in an organization where it has the largest impact when it comes to ESG. And if you look at the supply chain, you are talking about thousands of suppliers. How do we ensure? So this process of collecting the data, collecting the reliable data, has become a crucial part of sustainability, supply chain, and ESG. So this is where we can leverage some of the best practices people have been, or the organizations have been implementing in their so-called digital transformation, to ensure that we have the right set of data, and we can use technology, for example, automation of data enrichment. That we don't have to really sit and go through multiple levels of data to ensure that the data is accurate. We can automate that. So we can leverage technology that is used elsewhere in the organization to collect the data and see where we stand. And it also gives an insight into where they stand in terms of their ESG journey. If, for example, if we collect the data from a supplier, and if that supplier is actually lagging behind to become ESG compliant, we don't have to wait for 6 months to find out the data from the supplier. Once you have the right set of orchestration, data flow, the life of data, the so-called data, once you have that, once you have put a process in place, you can actually get this insight at the click of a button. Again, I'm using the word click of a button, not exactly click of a button. You really have to put some effort behind it. But again, the point I'm trying to make is you don't have to wait for months and months to see where we stand. We can actually get that we can integrate that in our everyday business processes and make decisions. So this is where I believe the supply chain ESG and sustainability does have a huge room for improvement, because I don't think we do have a infrastructure or a system in place we can actually collect all these data, reliable data. Still, we are relying on a third-party set of data, Excel kind of data, Word document, whatever you want to do it, right? We don't have a systematic way to orchestrate this data. So these are the places where I think the organizations can put a lot of effort to make sure that their journey to become ESG compliant is not impacted, and it's on their way. So.
And I'll add a couple of elements of which we found from interviews with experts like yourself. And what we found out first, the greenhouse gases, the carbon dioxide data for scope 3, which is downstream, right? Is not from your internal processes. It's averaged. And my question was, okay, if you use average for scope 3, how do you reward companies that perform better in your supply chain versus the ones which are laggards? Because you just deal with a big average, and the average, as you know, hides a lot of bottom and top, like minimum, maximum in the data. The other thing we did, we are working on a white paper inside AKFI on the supply chain. Car industry was actually one of the targets. And in the car industry, the tier 1 suppliers, the ones supplying the brands like Ford and Volkswagen and so on, and Tesla, are few. And it's easy to study them because of that. They are large. And we studied the requirements, the sustainability and ESG requirements coming downstreams from the brands, from Ford, from Tesla, to these suppliers, and they are not alike. So we made one of our mission statements to actually help them align the requirements, streamline the requirements. Now, going back to what you said, you pointed very well about the processes. The process of collecting and transmitting data is still done sometimes well, sometimes not so well inside the company. But interconnecting these data streams, it's very difficult. I'll give you an example. Tesla says you have to comply with our data formats, full stop. Now, I'm not sure if they want to share the data formats.
Yeah. So, Manuel, you're spot on. This is where it becomes complex. And then, after following up on these kind of complex processes, people would lose interest and then they kind of fall back on it. I think that is the kind of challenge we need to fight. And that comes with the mindset change. And this is where the thought leadership becomes paramount when it comes to ESG. We talked about a lot of these suppliers and, multiple stakeholders. It's easier said than done, but when you really try to collect the data and put a process in place, because now you have data from outside of organization as well. This is one area where I would say the so-called digital transformation is different from ESG transformation, because digital is all about the data within your organization, data created by your transactional systems like ERP or warehouses. And we are using those kind of big data to derive some insights and insights that will create new products and everything. That's not going to work in the case of ESG. ESG, as we said, we need data from both inside and outside our organization. So the moment you get outside of your organization, that's when it becomes really complex, and you will get a lot of pushback, and that is the kind of thing we need to plan ahead and see how we can fight these kind of situations. So being aware of these challenges and then mobilizing your team to tackle these challenges, the first thing you need to have. I'm a big fan of what Abraham Lincoln said. If you want to cut a tree and it takes 8 hours, you spend 7 hours sharpening your axe. So that becomes very important, especially when it comes to ESG, because it's not just an action that needs to happen within your organization. It's happening outside. In order to do that, what are the elements that should be in place, right? So that's very important. And that comes with an organizational change, that comes with a cultural change, that comes with a lot of knowledge sharing within an organization, that comes with the reporting chain, modification in the reporting chain, and making sure that that particular department talks to different areas within the company. So those are the kind of fundamental blocks you need to have to tackle this kind of challenges in the collection of data. So
absolutely. And I think we can have not one, not two, maybe even 3 sessions, because we can deep dive into the data, how to exchange data, how to present data, and so on.
Yeah.
Maybe from 3 we can go to 30 sessions if we involve other people. But in the interest of time, I'd like to invite you back to a follow-up. We have one more question, and I'll let Isabella ask for this talk. But definitely, we want to take a rain check. We want to see you back. So, Isabella.
Yeah, that's wonderful, everything you shared, John. It's really to the point, and you've shared a lot of key takeaways and the things we need to really focus on, and actionable steps that we should take instead of waiting for too long. So to end this conversation, what's your actionable call to action for everyone here who cares about integrating digital transformation, ESG, and sustainability?
I think if you ask me, one simple key takeaway is about the mindset change, the thought leadership that ESG is very important. If we don't start today, we are already late. That's my message, and we need to have a leadership, thought leadership in organizations that will communicate this message to the entire organization. And again, as I said, it's not just one team's effort, it's everybody's job. ESG is everybody's job. If we don't take care of this one, I think not so good things will happen to the organizations in the future, and people need to be aware of this, the importance of ESG. Not only that, we are doing it for the right reason. We are doing it for not for us, for our future generations, how we actually change our business processes. When people start using our products, they should feel proud of our products, right? To me, that is also very important. So key takeaway, mindset change.
So I think you're deferring the question, or not the question, the challenge back to Isabella. She's a social futurist, we call her in AKFI. And she wrote a book almost a year ago now, Isabella, right?
Yeah.
The Digital Mind of Tomorrow. And it's maybe not a well-kept secret. She's working on the digital mind of today now, starting to think about it. So
I'll check it out, Isabella.
This is really the mindset change, and she asks a lot of questions about what is our future and how we can change our mindsets around this future of AI, of digital transformation. And as I said, we need more sessions like this to even unpack the first wrapper of the problem. Sure. Isabella, back to you.
Thank you. Thank you, John. I can't agree anymore about the mindset. Our mind is everything because our action is directed by our mind. So you're right. It's about mind. It's about everything, not just technology. Thank you. Thank you for your valuable sharing today. And thank you to all of our audience for taking the time joining us today. Make sure to tune in every week for a new episode of AKFI's Actionable ESG Talks series, where you can gain new perspectives on how to mitigate risk and create value by integrating ESG and digital transformation. Until next week, goodbye for now. Bye, John. Bye, Manuel.
Bye. Thank you so much.